You cannot press the One Ring too hard, for it is, of course, a mythical feature, even though the world of the tales is conceived in more or less historical terms. The Ring of Sauron is only one of the various mythical treatments of the placing of one's life or power in some external object, which is thus exposed to capture or destruction, with disastrous results to oneself. Greetings and well met, my friends. Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. For a while now, I have been thinking about how the One Ring, Arkenstone, and Silmarils all play similar narrative roles in their respective works of The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and the Silmarillion. I think I have conceptualized enough information regarding this subject to make a coherent video about it, so that is what we will be discussing today. The One Ring, Arkenstone, and Silmarils all play similar roles. Now this video, as it often is with many of my building a world videos, is by no means exhaustive, and I'm sure there are more elements at play between these items than I see or will state here, so I hope you all add more information and your thoughts in the comments below. I will go ahead and link some related videos and articles as well, for they may help extend or support my ideas here. Thank you all for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. First, let me quickly discuss a popular theory, that the Arkenstone was one of the Silmarils, specifically the one Mithros jumped into the earth with, and that after the reshaping of the world, that stone found its way beneath Erebor, becoming the Arkenstone. While this is a cool theory, no doubt about it, it cannot be true for many reasons. The primary reason is that it is said the Silmarils could not be recovered until the breaking and remaking of the world of Arda. There are other reasons as well, like the Silmarils burning the hands of those who have committed evil deeds, and the Arkenstone doing no such thing. I explored this idea more in my Arkenstone video, so please check that out for more information. So as they work here, the Silmarils and Arkenstone are most definitely two distinct devices. Now let's look at how the One Ring, Arkenstone, and Silmarils are all similar in their lore and plot-driving qualities. These three items were all constructed or found and were powerful and beautiful. The One Ring was made by Sauron and was infused with his spirit. The Arkenstone was found by dwarves and was shaped into a multifaceted jewel, and the Silmarils were crafted by Fëanor, using the light of the two trees of Valinor. Now, what makes these a little different innately is the alignment of the factions that made them what they were. Sauron and the One Ring were wholly evil, while the dwarves were good, but their Arkenstone was rather neutral, not having any magic properties as it were, and the Silmarils were crafted by an elf with the light of the trees of the west, having qualities of innate goodness within them. However, as all of these plots and plot devices progress, they all begin to achieve the purposes for which they were wrought. The One Ring aided Sauron in allowing him to return to physical form, even after the fall of Numenor, and have massive power. The Arkenstone became a symbol of the line of Durin, an heirloom of the kings under the mountain. The Silmarils held the light of the two trees, even after the destruction of those trees, and remained the most magnificent items in Middle-earth. Then to expand and complicate the plot, all of these items fall in the hands of opposing factions. The One Ring was taken as a war-guild by Isildur from the hand of Sauron for the deaths of his brother and father, eventually coming to a third-party faction of Gollum, and then back to the faction of the Free Peoples, with Bilbo and Frodo. The Arkenstone joined the Horde of Smaug, and then was recovered by Bilbo Baggins, who after recovering the stone, acted in opposition to the will of the very dwarf who claimed a right to it as an heirloom, Thorin Oakenshield. And the Silmarils were stolen by Melkor, thusly named Morgoth, and taken by him to Angband, and placed in his crown as a symbol of his defiance and victory over the people of the West. Fëanor and his sons had the Silmarils of their house stolen from them. Now, it is during these points in the narratives, when the plot devices are in the hands of opposing factions whence they were created, when things for good and evil are done either with or for these plot devices. The One Ring, even though it was itself an object of evil, did indeed do some good in allowing Bilbo to accomplish tasks in The Hobbit such as sneaking near Smaug or past the Elven guards to deliver the Arkenstone to the men of Laketown and the Elves of Mirkwood. It even allowed Frodo to escape Boromir when the man would have taken the ring from the Hobbit in one way or another. But of course many things of evil were done with the ring or for it, such as Smeagol murdering his cousin Deagol to obtain it, or Boromir attempting to take it, or Frodo refusing to destroy it in the end and taking it for his own, etc. The Arkenstone, Again, good things and bad things were done with it or for it. Bilbo used it to give the men of Lake Town and the elves of Mirkwood a bartering chip with the dwarves after the fall of Smaug, so Thorin would have to relent his greed, and the refugees from Lake Town could survive. But of course, Thorin's greed for the Arkenstone was so great, and the armies of the dwarves almost went to war with elves and men, with the Arkenstone being an underlying cause. As for the Silmarils, there would again be good and bad. Good, as Beren and Luthien would endeavor to steal one from the very crown of Morgoth, showing that light could indeed prevail against darkness, and that the mighty Morgoth could be assailed. And that Silmaril came to be the Star of Eärendil, giving hope to the free peoples and despair to those who opposed them. But of course, the Feanorians would commit kinslayings and treachery to get the Silmarils of Feanor back. And the dwarves of Nogrod slew Thingol of Doriath for the Silmaril they had put into a necklace. Many people were slain for those stones unjustly, and many were the evil deeds committed with or for the Silmarils. Finally, the plot devices return to the faction or place of their creation, but not in the desired way by the faction that once owned them, and they are either put to their long homes or are destroyed, finishing an archetypal journey of sorts. The One Ring did return to Mordor in the end, but not in the way Sauron would have liked. Although it returned to the third party of Smeagol or Gollum, it was destroyed in the end, without ever coming back into the hands of Sauron. The Arkenstone was, in the end, placed upon Thorin's breast in his tomb, and stayed there evermore. Again, Thorin got it back, but only in death, and it was no longer an heirloom of the House of Durin, and it was reburied and re-entombed, going to its long home and no longer being an item of the same purpose it had before. And finally, Feanor himself would of course never get his Silmarils back, but his sons would get 2 of them. While Eärendil's Silmaril would never return to the Feanorians, and it found its long home in the sky. The other 2 Silmarils were reclaimed by the Feanorians, but again, not in the way they would have liked. The Silmarils burned the hands of the sons of the elf who made them, and they could not stay with the Feanorians for long. Maithros died with his Silmaril not long after recovering it, giving his Silmaril to the earth where it would stay, and Maglor cast his into the sea, again, not long after recovering it, where that Silmaril would stay. Again, these items would all, in a sense, find their way back to what may be considered their archetypal homes, being either a place, as with the One Ring, a faction, as with the Silmarils, or both, as with the Arkenstone, but they returned not in the way the original owner of the items would have wanted. Now, after all of these devices, the One Ring, the Arkenstone, and the Silmarils, found their long homes and their narrative ends, there was peace afterwards, and the factions that remained saw the ultimate wisdom in the absence of these items. The One Ring could no longer trouble the world, the Arkenstone could no longer drive the greed of the kings under the mountain, and the Silmarils could no longer bring a doom or greed to the Noldor, either those in the west or those who remained in Middle-earth. And there we have it. It is quite interesting to see how Tolkien uses these items to propel his characters and plots in certain directions. And while of course these items are powerful and important in and of themselves, it seems that it's rather how the characters interact with them that is of more importance, concerning the narratives at large. To sum up what we discussed in this video, it seems these plot devices are created and used for their purposes, then are lost to an opposing faction, and then are used for both good and evil purposes, and then they finally come back home in a sense before going to their thematic ends, bringing peace afterwards. Exploring all of this makes me have an even greater appreciation for the items in their own right, and everything surrounding them in a narrative sense. It is interesting to see how Tolkien defined this archetype while also modifying it slightly concerning each tale and each item, as each one goes through a bit of a different and modified journey, but with many of the same major story beats. But let me know your thoughts about all of this. Is there anything you would add? Thus, we come to the end of our tale about how the One Ring, Arkenstone, and Silmarils play similar roles. From this tale, we see how the characters who were able to let the items go had the most wisdom and peace, and that we should also keep our greed at bay through wisdom and a desire for peace. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, questions, additions, and corrections about all of this in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and share this with a friend. I'm really glad to have explored this topic. It really opened my eyes concerning all of these devices and the plots that surround them. Please check out our music channel, Facebook, Twitter, merch, and Patreon for Discord server and podcasts. Links are in the description below. I also wanted to give a shout out and thanks to our Valor tier patrons over on Patreon. Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Shepard, Kyle Wetzel, Lang Grimes, Samuel McBee, Jonathan Putnam, and Kyrie Kawai. Thank you all so much. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I'll see you all again next week with a Beings of Middle-earth video, and the choices for that video are up on a poll in the Community tab. Everyone, as always, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my great friends.